And good evening, folks. This is a SkeetNet special. It's a Monday night. It's 10 o'clock, and it is the night before Tin World. It's the 15th of March, and I'm joined by Mr. Bonzo Slater. Good evening, sir.
How do you do? Yes, 15th of March. You know what day that is, don't you?
I'm thinking Julius Caesar.
It's not my birthday. Ah, yes, indeed. The Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March. Yes, for those of you who studied Julius Caesar, or for those who watched Carry On Cleo. Infamy, infamy. They've all got it, infamy. Yeah. So we will wonder. Thankfully, Tynwald and Comyn have managed to get through the Ides of March. Well, there's another couple of hours left. But what may happen tomorrow? Ides of March +1.
Well, Bonzo, just to put the audience in the picture, we're just having a chat about Tynwald, the House of Keys, how it runs. Not everyone's aware, really, of the operation that goes along behind it. Lots of people hear about Hansard and the question paper and the business for the day. And I think it's only fair that we can really just share what lies ahead. I mean, obviously, there's been some huge issues in the news recently. I think if there was an opinion poll, our government wouldn't be doing too well. Would you agree with that? If there was some polling, if there was some independent journalism?
Yeah, I think certainly over the past couple of weeks, with things like the steam packet issues with COVID compliance, there was an independent review announced on that today. How independent a review is anybody's guess, because actually trying to have an independent review done by the internal auditors of Isle of Man government who live in the Cabinet Office doesn't sound that independent. Even though it might be independent, it just doesn't sound like that. So there's a big presentation issue there, and I think there's an urgent question on that tomorrow morning in Tynwald, before the normal questions on the order paper.
Would it be fair to say that Tim Glover, the Manx Radio news editor, fired in a bit of a salvo about that? He was quick off the mark today at questions. Is that right?
Oh yes. Well, I mean, Tim Glover is one of those people, along with Helen McKenna from Isle of Man newspapers, who sometimes Joshua Stokes, who seem to get to the core of things and are able to put people certainly in a position where they have to explain themselves rather than just are able to say the company line or whatever their brief has been.
So we'll just have a look at the order paper, but we've also got on file the article from Jeff from Ian Kermode, which it all ties in with the steam packet issue, which is what we're talking about. So I can bring the Jeff quote up on screen. Would you like me to do that? I know you can't see it, but...
Oh yes, certainly. Okay. Well, actually, I can see it because I've got my copy of it up there, but the one that you're showing the audience.
And I must
And
tell the audience.
it would seem.
Hang on,
Yeah.
I must tell the audience that the camera at Slater's Towers is not operating, so you'll have to listen to his dulcet tones for this evening. But I can see we're joined already by a number of visitors to the page, and if you would like to comment on what we're talking about, please do, and we'll get round to perhaps answering a few questions. But fire away, Bonzo, the clique. Tell us about the clique and Mr. Kermode.
Well, yes, Ian Kermode has been in the light of the steam packet issue and now this this investigative independent review, has been talking about another issue, which is very much connected with this, which is about actually the separation of powers and whether the Chief Minister has actually violated the ministerial code by actually violating the separation of powers between the government and the judiciary. Because one of the things that he said in various statements is that there isn't going to be a witch hunt, there aren't going to be any prosecutions. Now, that rather implied that he was the one that said there aren't going to be any prosecutions. And, of course, that is something that he simply has no business saying at all. It's not for him to decide such things. And if he had used any influence to ensure that prosecutions were not made, then that is a complete violation of the ministerial code. And that's a resignation or sacking issue. That's the kind of thing where Sir Richard, or whoever the Lieutenant Governor is, invites you up to Government House and gives you 2 bits of paper and says, sign this one, which is your resignation, and here's the press statement you'll be putting out, or here's the other press statement I'll be putting out, which is me sacking you.
Well, there are certain opposition or backbench members, if you like, who've got their... they're on the trail, so to speak, just by the questions that are being fired in tomorrow. Should we just have a look at those? We've got 1 and 2.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, we'll just have a look, and we've got Julie Edge there. So she refers to the independent review, which isn't quite as independent as she'd want it to be. Would that be fair?
No, yeah, yes, that's not really what I think she was looking for. And of course, she will be pretty cross, I would have thought, about her guns being spiked by this announcement today.
So I'll ask you.
And indeed, she goes on.
Yeah. I'll ask you, where should the investigation be made? Who should do it? Should it be an outside body completely, like a non-Isle of Man investigation?
Yes, as indeed Mark Kermode. Gosh, I don't know. Mark Kermode.
Ian.
No, film critic. Ian Kermode. Yes, all these Kermodes. Yeah. Frank Kermode, of course, he was the Sir Frank Kermode, one of the foremost scholars of Shakespeare, actually, talking about Julius Caesar. But right, Kermode. Ian Kermode, right? He, sorry, lost my thread. You're gonna have to help me again.
We're going to go off island.
But yeah, off island, right? Yeah, Ian Kermode was actually suggesting that this actually needed somebody who was entirely independent, so somebody off island, somebody absolutely outside of government, who would come in and would then have wide-ranging remit to investigate this and then to make recommendations, which then may actually provide recommendations for people being censured, otherwise disciplined, or maybe even perhaps facing prosecutions. But that would be for the report to recommend and provide those possible options to government.
So,
but that would be entirely independent. But we have this idea in many areas of the Isle of Man government, like in the climate bill, which is going through its clauses, which will shortly, be going through its clauses stages in Legislative Council. There's a piece in there about appointing a monitor to see how much progress Comyn and Isle of Man government are making on implementing climate mitigation climate mitigation things. But that monitor, appointed by the Council of Ministers, if they feel like appointing that monitor, and then the monitor has the remit that the Council of Ministers might think to give that monitor. So it's self-policing. So this kind of self-policing, self-investigation, it doesn't really give that kind of confidence, I would say, to the electorate, the people of the Isle of Man, that when things need to be looked at, they are looked at, and they are looked at objectively. And then the appropriate conclusions are then offered, rather than within the scope of the terms of reference that such an inquiry is given, to ensure that the outcome of the inquiry is, hey, what you wanted it to be.
I think there's a bit of a theme forming, though, isn't it? We've got some contributions that I've just put up on the screen, and Kevin will be saying it's a bit like the police complaints procedure, where we haven't got a body that oversees. We haven't got a truly independent police complaint system. And Andy, he says an independent review headed by Stephen Hind, an employee of the Treasury, doesn't sound too independent to me. So there is quite a feeling out there, and I think with the commentary, you know, if you look at the presser today, there was the figures were astonishing. The amount of viewers, it was well over 10,000 right across the island. So, you know, for that question to be fired in by Manx Radio, I think it's certainly hit home. And I can't see that the public being taken in by this. Can you?
No. As I say, I think the scales are beginning to drop from people's eyes, and people are beginning to realise that they have been, in many ways, spun to, not utterly misled, treading the fine line between, perhaps misleading and presenting the facts in the most.
But
the best way possible.
But Bonzo, you know why?
As he indeed, as Kermode says in the piece in Geff about the clique. To quote, Mr. Kermode then turns his attention to the way the pandemic has been handled by the Council of Ministers, saying some people might argue that the handling of the steam packet issue has been an accident waiting to happen. He adds, for too long during this pandemic, it has appeared that we have been governed by an elite, cocooned in a bubble of self-congratulation and mutual backslapping, detached from the emotional suffering, financial hardship, and enormous disruption their decisions have caused to ordinary people. I think he's been reading my social media quite a lot.
I think you're right, but on this occasion, you see, and I think this is where the public interest has gone through the roof, is that we were all enjoying a normal life. We suffered last year, we scraped back to some normality, and then it's all come out the woodwork that, well, really, this should have been prevented, and it's actually traceable. The evidence trail leads right into the pier head, if you like. And then we've got this other element that Mr. Kermode has picked up on, that we've got 60 people who were sent to jail last year, and they were processed duly by the police and the courts and so forth. And then we've had this decision made to say, these people are going to be treated differently, and I think that is going to ask the question, I think, as the year progresses.
Oh, certainly. I mean, these are questions that are going to start to be developing in people's minds as they consider how they're going to vote. And I think there's already a groundswell of people saying this kind of business as usual thing that we've had for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years with various administrations. No, something's got to actually change. I think Derek Flint, in one of your other webcasts, was saying that, yes, nothing ever changes. And I think most people, that is what they think. They can go to vote for a particular independent candidate whose manifesto is mostly Mom and Bonag, etc., and then they go into the keys, and then they become a departmental member, etc., and they join the payroll vote, and well, they just join the club and fit into the groupthink of doing things the way that things have always been done.
But don't you think that this particular administration, if you'd like to call it that, if you look back over 5 years, can you really think of more than one or two pieces of legislation that have been effective? And really, what is going to be the milestone, the millstone, is going to be the capital project on Douglas Promenade, and the usual stories about swimming slides and so forth. What's your view?
Gosh, well, I'm sure our dear leader in his bunker probably has a very big model of Noy Douglas that he looks at quite a lot, which has the Vanenhaler at one end and the parade ground for rallies for the Comyn party at the other, along with various places for flags and all sorts of other stuff to glorify him.
Well, it's certainly a war zone at the moment. Tell me, have we got some more questions? Let's go back to the questions.
That is the project. Sorry, yeah.
Let's go back to the questions. Let me see. So I've got on my list here, we've got Edge 19 and 20. Let's have a look at that. So we're going back to, and this is a stickler, isn't it? She's really hot on this one.
Oh, yeah. She's she's got her bite in there, and she's not going to let go of this particular bone. When was the Council of Ministers informed the latest COVID-19 outbreak was indeed the Kent variant, and then to ask the Education Minister what advice he received when the first known case of the latest COVID-19 cluster was identified in a school.
Well,
and that's the kind of
it's benchmarks, isn't it?
Yes, go on.
It's benchmark, though, isn't it? Because these illnesses, when they've been reported, will be documented and so forth. So if she's got a handle of the dates, but I think looking at questions 19 and 20, these are for oral answers. Are they going to get round to those questions?
I'm not sure that they're going to actually get to there, because of course we have two urgent questions before these questions are taken. The one on the steam packet independent review, and another one on hub schools. The hub school, which I think will probably arrive just in time to be too late for the lockdown at this rate.
Well,
so that will be an issue. But the idea of having one central school where you put all the children of key workers, etc., from a public health point of view, I entirely agree with the Directorate of Public Health. What were you thinking? I'm sure they showed them a very big list at DESC and said, look, here are the 99 reasons why this is an absolutely rubbish idea. But somebody decided, no, this is how it's going to be. And it's just very basic thinking about how you're going to take lots of children, transport them there and back to this particular hub in a COVID secure way, then how you're going to keep them all separated and socially distant, and the whole thing. It's just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling in its stupidity, I would say.
And the doc kind of sensed that. Look, we just had a chat before, and it was about what the tactics are like in running down the clock on questions, Tynwald questions. And I think if anyone looks at the order paper, there are more and more questions for written answer, because it's quite obvious that time just goes over. I think how long have they got to answer the questions tomorrow?
Oh yeah, well in Tynwald you get longer than in the Keys. In the Keys it's an hour, whereas in Tynwald it's 2.5 hours, I think. And if you want to go over that, then there has to be a vote. A motion is put, and then it's put to the vote, and usually the Comyn block and payroll vote usually are sufficient to block that vote. So that's so what they do is that they do try and, as you were saying, talk down the clock. And this was quite evident last week in the Keys session, where Chris Thomas had quite an important question, again, on the steam packet COVID issue. But before that, Tim Baker was answering another question and managed to drone on and on and on in his usual very interminable monotone way with as many cliches and buzzwords, etc., as possible, until then the clock went to 1 hour, and then the speaker has to say, okay, fine, we've had our hour, and then somebody pops up and says, yes, can I have a motion for extending question time? Somebody seconds it, and then it gets voted down. Conveniently, just before the question you don't want to be answered orally, so it's broadcast, or indeed, if Tynwald or Keys are sitting actually in the chamber, would be on a video.
Okay, so I'll just flag a question, which is number 13, and it's Mr. Henderson to Mr. Baker, and it's asking about whether the department intends to reconstruct the main arterial routes into Douglas as part of its phased programme of key road infrastructure renewal and upgrade. So that's quite a bland question, isn't it, from someone who is not elected by the public. So would you say that there could be, say, 10 minutes spent on formulating a reply on that one? Am I barking up the wrong tree?
Well, certainly that could be done. I mean, there are planted questions whereby one of the departmental members or a friendly person may be given a question to ask to elicit a statement or something like that from a member of Comyn. But there are other ones like this, which, again, as we were saying, could be used to
just pad it out a bit.
20 minutes about anything you like.
Filibuster is the word.
But the answer I think I would give to that, as the department might give to that, is if the honourable member would like to take this very large ball of string and tell us how long it is, then we very much welcome your input on that.
Well, I have a question from James. Comyn will do their best to stop all questions tomorrow. Why don't these people move a motion of no confidence in the CM? Is it the money?
No, it's because they know they won't win. Because there is that block vote that will always maintain. And indeed, the bar to vote no confidence, I think it's 2/3.
Yeah.
Indeed, Daphne Kane has brought a bill on this subject to lower the required vote to unseat a chief minister. So yeah, that's the first reason, and the second is, well, who else? Because of course, when the chief minister goes, the rest of Comyn are appointed by the chief minister.
True.
So you then get a situation whereby you've ousted a chief minister, and then everyone has to be reappointed or kept in job, and then you have to find other people. And at the moment, it being the situation that we have, and also the fact that it's relatively close to the election, I think people would really perhaps only go for a no confidence if it was really, really pressing and really, really necessary.
And so far it isn't. We have got our eyes on the finish line in September. I half think the vaccinations might be all done and dusted by then. That's my own personal feeling.
Oh, just in time for the election. How handy.
Look what we did.
Yeah.
Look what we did. But I do think, a lot of them have got their eyes on the finish line. And there's no question about it. At the 24, I think we'll have some walking into the sunset for good, and we'll never ever see them again. So it's going to be an interesting.
Well, there will be a certain number who will. I mean, inevitably, there will be those who will have had enough and just want to go, because you have a full pension after 2 terms. So people like Lawrence Skelly, for example, could just walk and say fine and get their full pension. And who would blame Lawrence Skelly, I think, for doing that, when he spent 6-7 years being the whipping boy at Department of Economic Development, now Department of Enterprise.
Oh, precisely. It doesn't look like a lot of fun. I've just got one from Andrew about opposing or putting up in a vote of no confidence into the CM. It may enhance the standing of the person. So maybe there could be a candidate out there who's looking at getting re-elected, and perhaps he couldn't stand or she couldn't stand by any longer. It's an interesting story.
It could do, but then again, it could go exactly the other way.
Yeah.
It could be seen as, oh, you're just doing this for political advantage. You've got your eye on the election, and they're in a crisis. They're doing the best they can, and you're just being terrible. So it could backfire. So that would be a risky strategy.
Well, I tell you who's someone that catches my eye as a potential one for the hot seat, and that is Mrs. Barber. And she's got a question 16 tomorrow about the requirements document for the Isle of Man steam packet. She's a sturdy lady, isn't she?
Yes, but I don't think she's anywhere near ministerial material. And chief minister, no. There's no way that she has the support in the current House to be elected, and I don't think there'd be any way that she'd have the support in the next House to be elected.
Well, she's one.
So I think so. She might think so, but that's a complete non-starter. Having said that, somebody will go down to the bookies and get 50-1 on it, and I'll have to eat my shirt. But, yeah.
But she too is on the steam packet hunt, which is a good question. If you can you see it? Have you got it up in front of you there?
Yeah. I got it up in front of me, and that is very much a sort of have you stopped taking drugs or haven't you kind of question. Why is it that it was entirely unenforceable?
Yeah. Oh well, she's on the hunt, yes. And we have a supporter from CW. Claire Barber is a good constituency, MHK. And I have seen her in action. I've seen speaking in the House of Keys about the dreadful scenario down on the prom. So there we go. Right.
She has had some successes as a constituency MP, and of course she had her was key supporter of the abortion reform bill.
Yeah.
So in those areas, yes, but does she have any understanding of economic policies? Does she have any understanding of environmental policies? Yep. Health, constituency stuff. Yep. But the rest of it, I don't think that's something that she really gets.
Well, I've got some comments just coming up on the stage. On the stage, feels like it on the screen.
It's a good job I can't see these comments, by the way.
We've got James saying Claire Barber would make an excellent chief minister, but Andrew, he says I'd be surprised if the next chief minister is anyone other than King Alfred or Alfred Cannon. He's distanced himself well from this catastrophe, and he has gone very quiet.
Alf Cannon has two. Yeah, Alf Cannon has two advantages here. Firstly, of course, he's not in a department that's directly involved. Okay, there are issues with MIRA and also then the Manx Development Fund, which is the subject of the supplementary order paper, by the way. That's the main thing, I think, in there, which is to establish that which will be the instrument that the Economic Recovery Group uses to put government aid
Well,
out
just
to
just
help
hold on,
the
just hold
economic
on. You
recovery.
mentioned the Economic Recovery Group. Can you just explain who they are or what they are?
Well, I could explain what they are. They are they're essentially a committee of some COMI members and some various other external parties, business, etc. I think Chamber of Commerce, Institute directors, and they take an overview of policy and how economic policy can be jigged and various measures used to economically reactivate the Manx economy in various areas after COVID.
So a bit of private enterprise and our Chamber of Commerce, which seem to have quite a close relationship with government, don't they? So they'll be pulling the strings.
Yes,
so to speak.
yes. There hasn't been much. I don't think over the past, past 20, 30 years that hasn't really been approved by the Chamber of Commerce first. You won't find the Chamber of Commerce standing up if you look through the press records and whatever. You won't find them complaining very much about what happened.
Lovely. Okay, well, I think we're coming up to 30 minutes, and I think we've covered quite a bit of territory there. Is there anything you'd like to just finish off with, Bonzo?
Me? Oh. Oh, yes. Well, whitewashing. Yeah. Isn't it just? We have the steam packet inquiry. Another piece of whitewashing. How many whitewashes can we go back to? How long is your memory? I returned to the island, about 20 years ago. And that was just in the wake of Mount Murray. And the Mount Murray inquiry was being done by and it was headed up by a QC from England. And that inquiry led to the censure of Alan Bell. But criminal investigations, anything like that? No, that didn't happen. Then we went
that was
to
quite
the
clear,
MEA.
wasn't it? That was quite clear, wasn't it, in its findings as
I think the phrase was practices tantamount to corruption that was used by the QC in the report. Which is about as near as damn it as you can go to say that without actually saying it. But then, of course, you then go to the MEA issue, the MEA loan. Yeah, and oh no, it's too far. It's too far gone. Time has passed too much. We have to move on. Dum. And then we get to the Sefton Group. Okay. Yeah. Fine. No, time's passed. No. We have to move on. We have to move on. I think before that, and then around the time of the Mount Murray report, there was then the purchase of the steam packet by Macquarie. Again, nothing to see here. Move along. No. Time's passed, etc. Then Vision 9. Oh no. Lessons learned. Dum. Blah blah blah. A catalogue of mistakes. I'm not quite sure is the right word. There are structural defects within the system and machinery of government that make these things happen again and again and again. History repeating itself first as tragedy and then as farce, as Groucho Marx used to say.
Would it be...
And now we get to well, oh no, it was the other one, wasn't it? But we now come to this, another potential whitewash. The wedding cake is very much whitewashed, and it seems to get a new coat of whitewash every administration.
I just got a note from James saying Coleman was going to keep the Mount Murray report secret until the governor ordered it to be public. I didn't know that. That would have been lost in the long grass.
Well, I didn't know that either. But that wouldn't surprise me because the governor at the time was, I think, Air Marshal McFadden, and he was the governor who summoned Richard Corkill to Government House and presented him with the 2 letters.
The holiday cottages.
Yeah.
But would you say that the Isle of Man has enjoyed a good standard of living, hasn't it, the last 20 years? We haven't had a great deal of employment, a lot of prosperity, comfortable jobs left, right and centre. It could be in various financial sector jobs or in government. In fact, more likely to be in government. But I think this, where it's our lifestyles have been affected big time. We're all prisoners in our own homes now, and we're looking over our shoulder at the events, the reports, the decisions that have been made in the last 6 weeks or so, and we're absolutely screwed, aren't we? Our whole summer could be taken away from us, and I think it is really getting into the Manx people that, whoa, hang on, there's been a huge slip up here. And I think it'll be this occasion where what happens in the next 3-4 weeks will determine the success of the elections for the candidates in September. I think that's the difference, because the likes of the MEA and Mount Murray, it didn't really affect people. I know the MEA does indirectly, because our bills are, and we haven't got the wind farm bill.
Yes, it was only less than $500 million, the debt.
Can you just quickly before we go off? I had this sum of 500 million in my head. Okay, and you're thinking that well, no one was arrested. Where did it go? And the outcome is that we haven't got a bloody wind farm. That we're paying for this gas-fired. Non-green, friendly
wind farms, and indeed wind farms. Do you know when we first started talking about wind farms on the Isle of Man or around the Isle of Man?
Oh, it's going to be 2 centuries ago. God knows.
Yes, something like that. No, actually, I think it was 1994. And there have been numerous reports about the viability of wind farms, both onshore, offshore. But yep, fine, right. Back to the filing cabinet. There's loads of them. You can Google them. There are tons of them on the on the various government websites.
Oh,
on the government departmental websites.
Tell me, if you live on the east side of the island, you look out 12.1 miles. And you can see hundreds of the damn things, and we don't even get a taste of it. It is utterly bonkers.
Well, the reason that we don't get a taste of it is because we are not part of a regime called CFD, which stands for Contracts for Difference. Now, that is the regime by which renewable energy producers sell energy into the UK grid. Now, that's for the UK. We're, of course, not part of the UK, so we're not included. I believe that there have been attempts to try and include us, but I think there were various reasons why UK might have thought that not too beneficial for them. I think mostly because they were thinking that then all the renewable companies would become Manx companies, and then would try and use Manx corporate vehicles to minimise the tax exposure and such like. But the big wind farm that you see from Douglas, there was another piece planned, which is the bit that was going to sit in the bit that was leased to Dong Energy, who are now Allstead. But of course, without contract for difference, can't sell the energy from it. So that would be 700, 800 megawatts. Huge amount of power. But yeah, we don't get a sniff of it. I mean, with tidal energy that we could generate, and with onshore wind energy, and with offshore wind energy, the Isle of Man could probably generate about 1.2 gigawatts.
But are we really? I mean, I'm no scientist, but it sounds like there could just be a couple of wind turbines, big ones, that would just feed the whole Isle of Man. It was as simple as that.
Certainly. If you just wanted to generate power for the Isle of Man, you could probably do it with 10 wind turbines, 10 big wind turbines. Because now they generate something like 15 megawatts.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, that they are very tall. The ones that can generate 15 megawatts, the tower to the hub is about 100 meters, and then the blade would be sort of 80 meters above that. So you're talking something 500, 600 feet.
I think we've gone past the time that people would be bothered about that, but we have got Brisha's dad on Twitter, who is the wind power expert, so if you can chip in at some point, that would be lovely. But really, if we did go for the wind option, then they'd be losing the payback on the loan for the electricity, wouldn't they, for the gas-powered electricity? So we could talk about gas all night, really.
Yeah, but the gas turbine power station is coming near to the end of its life. It's 2/3 of the way through its life. It's due to be decommissioned in 2034, I think. And yeah, it can be. I think it doesn't really do that much generating at the moment, because it's cheaper to actually take power from the UK, and indeed mostly which comes from renewable sources through the UK. From the UK grid through the interconnector.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
So I think
the slack approach regarding grants for making your house a little bit more warmer, a little bit more greener. I mean, there's virtually nothing now. I think there's a couple of LED light bulbs you can pick up, but that is it. And this has got to be a big part of the election in September. Is having
I believe the Manx. I believe the Manx Labour Party are being particularly, I think, along with the Greens, I think being particularly big on this idea of warm homes and getting heat pumps in. And getting energy efficiency. You can also have hydrogen, for example, in the conventional gas supply. You can mix it at up to about 30%, I think. And you don't need to change any of the appliances or anything. It will run perfectly happily. You don't have to modify them at all.
Well, I think we should leave it there. It's Betty Bow's time, Bonzo. It's been an absolute delight. I've loved listening to you, and maybe another time we can get the John Peel. Could you say goodbye in John Peel talk, please?
Well, thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to Geb Power and Bonzo Slater, whoever he might be, commenting on Manx politics. And, well, good night and good riddance.
Absolutely blooming marvellous. So tune in to Skeetneck this week. We've got Michael Joseph, Derek Flint coming up tomorrow. I've actually got Neil Clegg appearing on the screen on Wednesday, and we're trying to hunt down Mr. Phil Gorn, former MHK, for later on in the week. And tomorrow afternoon, for any golfers out there, we're going to have Tom Gandy talking about his aspirations for winning a few quid with the golf sticks in 2021. But we'll wrap it up for the night, so thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been great having all the comments, and we'll catch up again for another parliamentary preview. Thank you, Chief Minister. It's been wonderful. Goodbye.